Did Survivor's Guild make you cry?
Yeah, yeah.
So you gave my album a 7 and that made you cry?
Your album's not even the
I
only
should get
album.
extra points.
Have you ever heard the term underrated? I absolutely hate it. So often we see that artists as a collective get lumped under this phrase, but if millions of people have this feeling about an artist, isn't that a paradox? How can someone be underrated when everyone rates them as being underrated? Some of the best modern artists out there are put into this box prematurely. Your Jids, Denzels, Ski Masks, and the person I want to talk about today, Joey Badass. Now, I'm not a diehard Joey Badass fan by any means, but I do have a deep appreciation for the type of music that he makes. And what I will say is that Joey is often described as being an underrated rapper, and one of the best underrated rappers. So I'm going to break down how true this sentiment is, looking at his discography, stats, and then we can have a discussion about the influences behind why Joey isn't as big as people claim he should be. Now, Joey, as of today, is a 29-year-old Brooklyn native. He started in hip-hop in his late teenage years, both with his solo work and working with the group Pro Era. Joey is known in his early music for his progressive, insightful lyrics, along with jazz-infused instrumentals. His first project, 1999, is probably the one he is most known for / his name is most synonymous with. Joey released this record in 2012 when he was at the age of 17 years old. The title of this project pays homage to the 90s eras of rap music, which Joey was inspired by. Joey believes this era of rap to be the golden generation of hip-hop, which ended in 1999. This project also serves to showcase Joey's longevity in the rap game with his 10 years of experience as well as his early talent. For his first major project at an age where he probably would just start to qualify for his driver's license, and also being able to hark back to a more traditional rap style, were all the ingredients he needed to make this mixtape extremely well received at its release, and served as a stepping stone for Joey's career to further blossom. It still streams quite well to this day, with the song Survival Tactics currently accumulating over 100 million streams. Now, with any Joey video though, it should include a mention of Capital Steez that was a big part of this project, and his tragic passing after 1999's release, mainly for the impact his passing had on Joey's career and how it changed his trajectory. Capital Steez, featured on the aforementioned Survival Tactics, had ongoing struggles with his mental health, passing away at the age of just 19 years old. The loss of his Pro Era groupmate, collaborator, and close friend formed the more somber notes that his follow-up project in 2013, Summer Nights, had, with a track dedicated to Capital Steez titled Long Live Stilo. Now, for this project in particular, I listened to most of my music on Spotify, and so I'm aware that this project has had some clearance issues, and so I haven't been able to stream the whole thing, but I do think this is a core reason why this project doesn't get brought up much in Joey's discography. It does remain crucial, however, in understanding Joey's story throughout music. While it retains a similar style to 1999, the emotional weight of the surrounding background context makes this project hit a lot harder. In 2015, Joey would go on to release his first major album, Before the Money. This was a project that back in 2015 I had entirely missed, but listening to it now holds up extremely well, especially when you compare it to a lot of the current rap being released today. This album feels like a culmination of everything that Joey had learned. His pen is refined, his beat selection is on point. If you don't believe me, Fantano gave it an 8 back in the day, so any opinion that you have about this project is automatically obsolete, but that's a problem for a different day. The song Paper Trails has over 120 million streams, showcasing the popularity of this album. The song itself is just a classic. It manages to scratch a sort of mental hip-hop itch that I have and that I also can't accurately describe. As well, this project contains the cult classic Christ Conscience, which has significantly high streaming numbers and remains a song that fans find synonymous with Joey and his music. His next album though, All American Badass, is where things really kicked off in terms of numbers for Joey. Released in 2017, a good 5 years after 1999 came out, this is a project where I first started to hear people talk about Joey Badass in a more common and casual setting. On All American Badass, Joey created an album where he paired social commentary with commercially accessible music that people would actually want to replay over and over again. Essentially, instead of making a traditional rap album, as he had done across most of his previous projects, Joey created a quintessential modern hip-hop album with a message, which at the time was the formula to garner success back in 2015 to 2017. It was a huge success upon release in 2017, and without a doubt is Joey's most commercially successful piece of work to date. His two most streamed songs, Devastated and Temptation, came off of this album, sitting at about 340 and 200 million streams, respectively. A lot of people at this point started touting Joey as the next best thing in hip-hop, especially since his previous work gave him the backing that he could actually rap and not just make rap hits. But unfortunately, All American Badass would be the last project that Joey would release before taking a 5-year hiatus from releasing another project. Would this have greater implications on his career? I'll dive into that in a second. By 2022, Joey released his most recent project titled 2000, the somewhat sequel to his first mixtape, 1999. On this project, Joey peels back the layers, representing a return to his traditional progressive rap roots, signified quite obviously by the fact that the album is named in such a way. In my personal opinion, I think that Joey making 2000 symbolizes a return of his love for music and hip-hop culture. The 1990s is what Joey considers to be the best era of music, which ended after 1999, and rap went into a completely different direction with newer artists taking over. And this is reflected within Joey's career as well. We see him transition into a more modern style of rapper on his future projects, with hints of it on Before the Money, and it coming to full fruition on All-American Badass. While this evolution may have made Joey more commercially successful, it's my opinion that he probably didn't enjoy creating this type of music as much as his early work, thus him taking a break from making another album or mixtape while he tries to find his passion again. 2000 symbolizes both honoring the past of hip-hop, such as Joey's 1990s influence, but it also showcases his recognition for the shift in rap, giving recognition also to his own personal journey. I would say that the song Survivor's Guilt is one of the most emotionally impactful songs that Joey has made on any of his projects. Serving as a sequel within a sequel to the song Survival Tactics, Joey once again talks about his dear friend Capital Steez, having passed away 10 years prior, reflecting on the changes Joey had undergone and how much he dedicates his success to Capital Steez, how Joey feels responsible not only to keep his friend's name alive, but also that he wasn't there to help his friend when he needed him the most. If you've ever had the feeling of letting a friend down, I don't even think that compares or comes anywhere close to how Joey has felt these past few years. While he may have attained the success he dreamed of, he still thinks of his friend Stilo and is haunted by his passing. And that summarizes a lot of the material on Joey's album, traditional mixed with modern, a combination of past and present. Sentiments around the album's release indicate that people were disappointed with sales figures for the caliber of rapper that Joey is, leading to increased suggestions that Joey's being slept on and the usage of the term underrated being thrown around as often as possible. So let's get into it. Why is it that Joey Bada isn't a bigger name in hip-hop? Why is he underrated if so many people consider him to be underrated? Now, this is a little bit of an obvious statement, but Joey's music is extremely good, and as someone who hasn't been a huge listener of his music before, the quality of his projects is quite evident to see. You just have to have the mental willingness to give it a chance, and I think that's why Joey and a lot of other underrated rappers struggle. There's no incentive to listen to their music. People tend to hear, oh, so-and-so is such an underrated artist, and it turns them off from actually listening to their music. Well, why is that? Well, because as much as hipster culture would tell you otherwise, if you don't conform to the mainstream, they don't like you. J. Cole is a perfect example of this type of mentality. He's a rapper in a very similar mold to Joey in terms of rap style. The reason why Cole is part of the big three, as it were, and Joey isn't, is because while still maintaining his style, J. Cole for earlier parts of his career made projects that conformed to the mainstream. 2014 Forest Hills Drives had hits that weren't fully rap influenced. So did Born Sinner, and this helped to elevate him amongst casual fans. Now, granted, Joey did that too with All-American Badass. However, when his name started to get tossed around by both hardcore and casual fans, he then took a 5-year hiatus without releasing a solo project. The lack of instant follow-up led to instances where Joey was almost completely forgotten by commercial hip-hop. Then, upon his return, he released an album that, while much more authentic to his style of rap, does not conform to the mainstream hip-hop audience. And to say it's an extremely unfortunate state of affairs is a bit of an understatement. 2000 represents an extremely refreshing album to listen to, especially compared to a lot of the other projects that released both in 2022 and even more recently. You could tell Joey was really trying to flex his skills in his lyrics as well as song selection to reintroduce you to why he should be considered a heavy hitter in the industry. Yet it didn't get as much attention as it should because these songs aren't being played at a certain BPM. And so the album is already being given the tag of being non-mainstream or underrated, and so your hardcore music hipsters will talk about it to seem cool and knowledgeable of rappers outside the commercial space, but in reality, a lot of these people that say these things, whether on social media or just in your friend groups, don't actually sit down and listen to the whole project. They do it just to act like they're more interesting than they actually are, and in reality, they are causing more damage than they might actually intend. Whereas with mainstream/commercial music, audiences will sit down and listen to a popular project front to back, whether on purpose or accidentally through radio or social media. And this is caused by people and networks not wanting to miss out on what is trendy in their communities. Meanwhile, people don't worry about non-mainstream projects as there's no fear of missing out. So if you give a project the label of underrated, what you're saying to casual fans is that this isn't worth their time, as no one else is really talking about it other than a small pocket of people, which shouldn't be the case, but it is. Therefore, being deemed underrated can actually be more of a hindrance than a compliment, and that's kind of the situation that you see Joey in now. However, I do recognize that for Joey, 2000 is more or less a warm-up project. He has been out of the race for a bit, but he is now working his way back to having a seat at the table, and definitely has been more active recently in terms of releasing music, albeit he has not released a new project since 2 years ago. His next project will tell if he is truly able to recover and prop his name up back in the conversation with other big name artists. Joey could easily be a top 5 rapper of this generation if he continues to put the focus and effort into keeping his name and music alive amongst fans. If he continues showing the dedication and level of skill mixed in with a little bit of marketing and some conformity to the mainstream, I could easily see Joey back on top again.